Hey everyone, it's been a while since I posted any video on BraineyBites, but I am back and super pumped to dive into something I love, 3D character sculpting. From now on, I am going all in sharing my journey as I create characters, starting from my roughest work to hopefully some seriously awesome stuff. And I want you all to be part of it. This channel is gonna be about my growth, going from yikes, what's that, to whoa, that's pretty dope. Whether it takes a day, a month, or a year, I am here for it, and I'd love for you to join me on this ride. In today's video, I am sculpting Sentry, a badass Marvel character, using Blender. I'll try to walk you through my process. I'm not a pro yet, but I'm learning, recording, and sharing it all with you. So stick around, enjoy the vibes, and let's see how far we can go together. Let's start with a sphere. I will use grab brush to move my geometry here and there to match the shape of a head. It's good practice to keep the poly count low as it is easier to control a low poly mesh. Then when I need more geometry, I will just remesh my sphere so that it can have more geometry. Here I am using draw brush to add or remove volume from the mesh to create the features like the eyes and nose. I will keep adjusting the font to get more better shape. Then I will use draw brush to drag out the ear from the mesh. I will keep using draw or grab brush to adjust the head to refine the head shape more. Later, I use mask brush to draw out the neck from the head. We'll use draw brush to adjust the shape of the neck and then use clay stripe brush to add more details to the neck. And we'll draw out the Adam apple of the neck. Throughout the whole work in progress, I either use grab brush to move the volume here and there to adjust the shape of the head, or I will use draw brush or clay stripe brush to add or remove volume from the head to match the facial feature of head anatomy. I have gathered multiple references of male anatomy which I have saved in PureRef and opened that in my another monitor that I am looking around and following that so that I can keep adding or removing volume from the head mesh. I am trying to match as close as possible the shape of the head with my reference. Next, I'll add a sphere for the torso and position it in editing mode. I'll use grab brush to manipulate the geometry and accurately match the desired torso shape. To add or remove volume, I'll utilize the clay stripe brush or draw brush. Initially, I aim to keep the poly count low as this simplifies the process of adding or removing details in the earlier stage. During this phase, my goal is to incorporate as much as possible with the anatomical detail into the torso using my references. The foundational work will be invaluable for the fine-tuning all the details later on. In this stage, it is easier to add or remove any kind of muscles or details the torso need. Next, I'll bring another sphere and carefully place it to start building a leg. In this early stage, I mostly rely on grab brush. I use it to pull and push the sphere shape, trying to get general form of the leg right and making sure it follows proper anatomy. I am looking to establish the overall curve and flow from the top down to where the foot would be. Once I feel I have got the basic shape of the leg in the place, it looks correct, I start adding some smaller details. For this, I use crisp sharp brush. You'll see me drawing lines on the leg with this brush. These lines are really important because they help me to find and outline where different muscle areas are. Even if I can't recall the specific names of all the muscle groups right then, drawing these lines helps me visually identify where the major fleshy parts of the leg will sit. After I have laid down these guiding lines, I switch back to grab brush to make any final adjustment to the leg overall shape and flow. Then I use the draw brush or clay strip brush to add or take away volume. This is where I really start building up the individual forms and bumps that make up the leg's shape, making them pop out, giving the leg its realistic definition. I am essentially layering the volume onto the underlying structure I have already established, creating a more detailed and lifelike sculpted leg. I will keep using grab brush to adjust the form of the leg and the foot to match the reference from the anatomy. I'll start by adding another sphere and carefully placing it where the arm should go. My first step is to use the grab brush to pull and push the sphere, adjusting its form to match the arm's shape. I'll then apply remesh to increase the detail slightly. giving me a bit more volume to work with. Next, I'll use clay stripe brush to add more volume to the muscles. After that, I'll use crisp sharp brush to draw smaller lines. These lines are really important because they help me to find and identify the separate muscles areas or forms in the arm. This visual guide makes it easier to add more details later on. I'll also use the clay brush to add more details that helps these muscles to pop out. I'll constantly use the grab brush to properly adjust the form, making sure it matches my anatomy references. I mostly struggle when sculpting arms, which is why I spend more time here using the grab brush to adjust the arm's shape as much as possible in the beginning. I added a plane, rotated it 90 degrees in edit mode, adjusted its height so it matches the height of the head. Then I added an array modifier that helps me to measure if my character anatomy following the proper 8 head proportion or not. For the hand, I simply use the grab brush to pull out a small amount of geometry directly from the end of the arm. If I need more detail for the hand, I'll remesh to increase the poly count. I'll continue using the grab brush to adjust the hand's shape until I feel it looks right. You'll notice I use the grab brush very often throughout my entire sculpting process to adjust the overall shape of the whole anatomy. I will also use the grab brush to pull out the thumb from the hand area. I'll then use the grab brush again to carefully shape it until it looks like a proper thumb. I will keep using the grab brush to accurately match the thumb's shape to my reference. For the fingers, I begin with a cube, scaling it to the right size and then slightly increasing its poly count for more detail. I use the smooth brush to soften its edges. Next, I grab the grab brush to shape it more like a finger and get its proportion right. Then I use the clay strip brush to add some initial details and the crisp sharp brush to draw some lines that help me to see the defined areas of the finger. After that, I use the pose brush to put the finger in a relaxed position. Finally, I bring this finger to the hand, copy it 4 times, scale them to different lengths and position them correctly to match the hand anatomy, and keeping all the fingers and hand in a natural rest pose. From here, I'll repeat these exact same steps to build the rest of my character's anatomy, making sure all parts come together correctly. My goal is to eventually transform this figure into Sentry. If you are curious about Sentry's origin, his story in the comics, or his appearances in the MCU, I have made a separate video all about that. You can find the link to that video in the description or comment section below, so feel free to check it out. And be sure to watch this video all the way to the end, because there's something special I have shared that you might want to grab.
Thanks for sticking around until the end. Here it is. I have created a separate character illustration from this exact same sculpt, and the Blender file for it is completely free for you. Just check out the link in the description to grab it. And hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share this video with your friends. Also drop a comment below with your thoughts. You can also tell me which comic character you would like me to sculpt next. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.